Would you like to see today's example of rage baiting? Pierre is telling Canadians that he will use the notwithstanding clause to make sure that multiple murderers die in jail. Last week he said we don't have a lot of criminals in Canada. We also don't have a lot of mass murders. Now I'm curious, Pierre, in you wanting consecutive sentencing and understanding that people convicted of serious offenses in Canada may be eligible for parole at 25 years. I'm just curious how many of those dangerous offenders, the mass murderers that you want to see die in jail, have been released from jail after their 25 years. I'll wait. None. Because even criminals who haven't necessarily unalived people, but are deemed dangerous, can be subject to a dangerous offender application, which means they may never get out of jail. But those who have unalived people, en masse, still have the eligibility of parole. It doesn't mean they get it. Just like how you were eligible to be leader of the CPC and potentially Prime Minister of Canada, it doesn't mean you get it. Now, part of Pierre's rationale is that it violates the Charter of Rights and Freedoms for victims and their families. But like it or not, the convicted are also under the Charter and should be subject to due process. And I understand at every parole board hearing, the victim or family has an opportunity to give their perspective on whether that person should receive parole. Now, Lisa, if you're saying there's not that many mass murderers in Canada, unless Pierre is anticipating what may happen if we continue with his American-style politics, why does it matter if Pierre's threatening the use of the notwithstanding clause? 'Cause it's a fucking slippery slope, that's why. Isn't it funny that the dude complaining about government overreach in the use of the Emergencies Act when there was an occupation of Ottawa now wants to use government overreach? There's a lot more things that you can work on, Pierre, besides just allowing for people to serve consecutive sentences. I mean, let's be real, a lot of them are going to die in jail anyway. Because a lot of them are never going to get out. They're never going to get parole. And I know you're trying to stop the what if. You guys didn't like the what ifs. I mean, Carney brought up a good point.
And I note that, with regret, that Mr. Poilievre has voted against every single gun control measure during his very long career as a career politician and member of the House of Commons. I think it's over 200 times.
Blanchette had this to say.
Position of a person that wants to be Prime Minister of Canada, you should rely more on improving justice system and laws than removing yourself from their application.
That's his way of saying fuck you, Pierre. And then there's Jagmeet.
And using and threatening to use the notwithstanding clause for that, undermining human rights and using the notwithstanding clause to do that. I think those are both very problematic things.
But don't worry, Pierre said he's only going to use it for crime. For now. For the crime that he's specifying. Now. Should people who do bad things go to jail? Sure. And a lot of people who do bad things will spend the rest of their natural lives in jail. We don't need to use the notwithstanding clause. Because even though Pierre's people are like, yeah, tough on crime, it's already happening. It's already happening. He's just making it look like he's doing something. And this is where that whole rights for me but not for thee, the Charter applies to everybody, whether we like it or not. And it is a slippery slope of what else he could use the notwithstanding clause for. Even though he's looking us in the eyes and saying, oh, no, I'll just use it for this, I promise. You don't need it, and you're setting it up to be able to use it whenever you want. That's dangerous for everybody, and people should be concerned about that.
Well, we use it for other things, and the answer is we will only use Section 33 to fight crime. We will only use it to end the liberal crime wave, which they have unleashed with catch-and-release hug-a-thug laws.
Hug-a-thug? Is that like Build-A-Bear? Maybe if more resources were put into all of the things that happen before somebody does something they shouldn't, there'd be less worry. Maybe less people doing things that they shouldn't. But that doesn't make headlines, does it, Pierre? Hug-a-thug. How's about con be gone? Rage baiting at its finest.